And welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call. You're joining me on set right now. I've got a man who wears many hats. But this morning he is wearing the hat of an activist and a writer. Good morning to you, Dr. Kublalsingh.
Morning, miss. How are you?
Not too bad. And how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. Considering all that is happening, I think we've got to be thankful for a lot. But of course,
the sun came out this morning.
Yes.
Just coming over Laventille there, over the church steeple. It's a very beautiful sight.
Yeah.
And over the convent.
Yeah. And I don't know if you would have seen what has been happening with Dorian.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. I would like to address that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, let's talk a bit about the arrest and subsequent charge of the leader of the Public Services Association, Mr. Watson Duke. You've been very vocal about a lot of matters. I would just like to get your comments on this recent development.
Well, Mr. Duke is my brother. He's my blood brother. I want Trinidad and Tobago to know that he's my blood brother because we share the same ideology with respect to acting in the public interest. Now, from the legal point of view, I think that when the government and its agents begin to collect information on individuals, collect information on Ms. Kublalsingh, and collect information on Mr. Chaitu, and collect information on Mr. Abdullah, whoever, and store it like a squirrel, all right, over a period of time, I think it's very inadvisable not to use it. But when the same individual comes and says something which is hurtful to you, you suddenly pull it out of a file like a Jack Warner and you blast him with it. It's very oppressive to do that. It's very arbitrary to do this, and it's very political to do it. All right? So I want to say that that action against Mr. Duke is driven by political forces. Mr. Duke, I am an army man. I spent 4 years in the British Territorial Army, and one of the things you do in developing a criteria for threat, what is the motive of this person? What is the intention? Is the intention of Mr. Duke to throw over the government by violence? No. The man is engaging in rhetoric, in old talk, in union talk, and Mr. Dr. Rowley knows that. What is his capacity? If you say Dr. Kublalsingh could overthrow the government by violent force, I may be, because I was a member of the engineers. Yeah, I could do perhaps some of those things.
Coming from your background, of course.
Mr. Duke doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to swim. I said the man jump in the water, he swim 100 meters and that's it. The man does not have the capacity to do that. So he has neither the motive, he has no intention to do that, he has no capacity to do it. Yeah? And the law itself is being applied very selectively.
Yeah.
So he's my brother. He has the mark, and I think Trinidadians and Tobagonians must know who are their friends. Mr. Duke is their friend. He's been supporting the working classes of this country. He's very passionate. He has the mark like, for example, Butler or Marcus Garvey or fame on his brow. And probably that's what gets in the government uneasy. He has the mark of greatness on his brow. I know him. I can sense the man. He acts with passion. He acts with vigor. He commits.
Yeah.
All right? So I think the government is running scared, and I think that Mr. Duke will get off.
And the act itself, do you see this now as, the convenient use of it or misuse of it? Do you see this as probably a clamp down on freedom of speech or freedom of expression?
Well, the government went to Roger. They basically dismissed, they gave Mr. Roger and the union OWTU an undertaking to consult. They refused to consult. They went to the court, they got a judgment there, and they applied it. Okay? And the same thing they're doing with people whom they see as a threat. They've gone to Mr. Duke because Mr. Duke is next in line. So they're using the law very selectively.
Yeah.
But they can't try that with Kublalsingh. They better not do it with me. You understand? Because I have a habit of deconstructing governments. When Minister Manning came with the smelter,
Yes.
free smelter.
I remember that.
Well, we had no smelter and we had no Minister Manning. Ms. Kamala Prasad, we succumbed with She got barge and so on. We want highway, we want highway. She was gotten rid of. And Dr. Rowley better watch his scotch. Okay, scotch politically speaking.
Yes.
Better watch his political scotch. All right? And don't threaten any of my brothers. And misapply the law, because I'm a serious, deadly serious man when it comes to that. Mr. Duke represents the people.
Yes, he does.
He's a man of esteem, a man of intelligence, a man of dignity. Let the man do his business. That's his business. He has no business ending up in hospital or ending up in jail. The man is doing his business. He is engaging in gambage, typical union rhetoric, and you know that. Okay?
And like, you know, I was telling somebody who was on the show previously, I said, you know, if you were to look back at some of the comments made from within the same ruling party as is, currently we've seen Mr. Minister Hines has said, well, he is open to an investigation into him because, of course, in the past he would have made alleged seditious comments. You know, do you think that this act should be repealed?
I don't think it should be repealed. I think it should be amended.
Okay.
All of these old acts on the books from colonial times, they should be amended. Because what Dr. Rowley is doing is behaving using the law as a colonial master. He's a colonial master without having the acumen in Trinidad and Tobago. What the colonial master did very well was to develop the country, develop the horticultural resources, develop a lot of the resources. But he doesn't have the skill of the colonial master. He only has the spite of the colonial master.
Now, you yourself, in your capacity, you have always been very vocal. You've held many protests. You've stood up against for what you believe in, just like Mr. Duke. Do you now feel in any way threatened? Or do you think that, you know, probably if you say something, they can come down on you?
I don't feel any threat at all. I think Dr. Rowley should feel threatened, politically threatened. Dr. Rowley has made many, many blunders, and it has cost this nation millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. He was the man. I could record it right here. If I borrow your pen, I could record all the blunders, but I wouldn't do that. I don't want to infect your pad there. Dr. Rowley was a man who said, we want smelter. Up and down the country, the man going for smelter. One of the smelters was 500,000 tons per year. The other one was 250,000 tons per year. He got neither, and he still went on the path of smelter. If we had put up any of those smelters, where would we have been getting the gas for them? Port Lisas is begging for gas now. All right, it's a tremendous blunder which cost this nation millions of dollars, and he persisted with it. He was the one who mothballed Petrotrin. Cows are there and sheep are there now growing in Petrotrin and sidelined the union. He was the one who let Malcolm Jones off the hook. His government let Malcolm Jones off the hook on a $1 billion charge. He was the man who allowed under his government Mr. Malcolm Jones to close down the Chatham is it dairy or diary? Dairy.
Dairy.
All right. Okay, Chatham now, which is laden with drug offenders.
Yeah.
All right. He was the one who went on a rampage because he simply couldn't read a text, an email text, and I'm good at that, and understand motive and intention. He went on this email gate scam because he couldn't interpret irony. He couldn't interpret vituperation. He couldn't interpret sarcasm. He couldn't interpret simple text which an ABC person could do. He couldn't interpret tone, meaning, and intention. Cost this country millions of dollars, take us off on a long tangent instead of developing Trinidad and Tobago.
And speaking of the
he has a lot of misdemeanors, but they are not chargeable offenses.
Yes.
He's the one, and I say this because we have a matter, it's sub judice, but I'll say it very plainly. Our case is that Dr. Rowley and Dr. Rohan Sanan engaged in a systematic action to deceive members of the HRM, where there was a $1 billion deal jumping up in the pan, and then when they were brought to court, engaged in a pattern of delay and further misdemeanor instead of sticking to their word. So Dr. Rowley himself, I don't know if Mr. Watson did any of those things. I know Mr. Watson because faithfully supported these people. Dr. Rowley should watch his scotch politically because he promised the people to go in the eastern seaboard and develop the coconut and develop the farms. He has not done such a thing. So Dr. Rowley should demit office along with the persons who are next to him, as well as Ms. Kamala Prasad-Biswas. So they should both demit office and give other people a chance to do it. And if it is that their leadership in the UNC and the PNF will not do it, Mr. Watson Duke will do it.
Just to get back at what you were talking about just now, the subjudiciary case is a matter now. I would have seen recently where you wrote to the president on a matter. Just tell us briefly about that.
Well, the government rightfully established a commission of inquiry into the compensation and relocation aspects of the Point Fortin highway extension. The HRM, the Highway Road Movement, has always supported the San Fernando to Point Fortin highway. We have no problems with that. We're interested in the David to Bon Desir segment. And we are saying if you want to do a proper commission, you must look at all of the processes. Okay, from the conception in the period of Mr. Manning, to the certification in the period of Mr. Manning, to the collapse of the project. You have to look at all of it. The whole hog, as far as we're concerned, is corrupt. Don't just pick and choose for political reasons. They're picking and choose again, selecting for political reasons what they want to investigate. They should look at the whole thing. I want to remind the public, this is a $10 billion project, the largest infrastructural project ever undertaken in the Southern Caribbean, and the public has a right to know how its monies were spent. I can see very clearly that the entire process was flawed. That's why this man went on a hunger strike. They got a report costing $1 million, and the report made a lot of recommendations which they ignored. They went along, they made their blunders, the project collapsed, and now they're investigating. So again, Dr. Rowley at fault. So you want them to look at the whole process. I want to go before the commission for 2 hours and explain everything for them, and hopefully they will entertain me. I received a letter from the president about 2 days ago, in which she said she has taken, she has read my letter, and she has said that there will be advertisements in the public inviting people to comment, and I can then be free to write to the council for the commission and the secretariat asking to represent the HRM.
Oh, wow. What do you hope to achieve by that?
Well, I think Trinidad and Tobago don't really understand what happened, how their monies were spent. This was money spent directly from the treasury, it's not loan money. And they don't understand because you see there was a lot of diversion. The former Prime Minister said, oh, they want to stop the highway. We never wanted to stop any highway.
Yeah, I know you all have always, you've never opposed the San Fernando section of the highway, but it was more so the David to Mandezir section.
To route the highway, to build connector roads and so on, to make it cheaper and to save the very rich ecological and social and economic resources there. You know, they're very powerful economic resources. And I think we have a route proposal, it's called the Optimum Connectivity Proposal. And people don't know that. All they know is Kublalsingh want to stop a highway because they were told that. So the people need, I think we need to put on record what the government did and how they approached this project, because we're going to approach other projects in future. There might be a need, for example, to put a transit system, a public train system, and therefore we need to approach it with probity, transparency, and efficiency. We need to do those things. Yeah,
that sounds very innovative.
It's a trade. Yeah. People running train for donkey years. Dr. Rowley should answer the question, why did Dr. Eric Williams shut down the train? Yeah, and all this traffic. Why do you think we reach so early, miss? We come early because we're afraid traffic. We come early before the traffic starts. But all those people, we're heading to a gridlock. Wow. We're heading to hell in a coconut shell with this traffic. And we're going along easy. And I want to suggest to people, do not criticize Dr. Watson Duke, Mr. Watson Duke now. Be like Watson Duke. He's a man who stands up and fights. He doesn't sit down in traffic, you know. He acts. So instead of sitting down in traffic and taking the pressure and taking the blows, act. Do something. And if we had 10 Watson Dukes in Trinidad and Tobago, we would have been a better country. So be like Watson Duke. Sorry, I'm shouting.
No, that's fine. in terms of traffic as well, what other probably alternative measures can we as citizens can use to alleviate traffic? You mentioned something about a transit system just now. Do you think that's something that, we can look into, not just for the southern part, but just for the country as a whole?
We could, yeah. You see, the thing is that they want to build in David Montezir 5 large interchanges on a 9-mile stretch of road. But Trinidad and Tobago do have 5 interchanges. In a countryside area, they want to build 5 interchanges. Yeah? And they said this is a great and a wonderful thing. And the traffic doesn't happen there now. The traffic happens in the entrances and the exits, Arriba, Chaguanas, San Fernando, Port of Spain. And they're doing very little to solve those problems.
Yeah.
And they need to think about a train system, not a rapid rail, a nice jiggly, beautiful, nice, comfortable, moderately priced system, and they could go to the Chinese and get some help with that. They need to think, for example, of improving the boat service, the ferry service.
Wow.
I think they only have one operating right now.
Yeah.
People really love that service, They come early, they take the service. They need to develop or to diversify the system to get buses more in the rural areas. So basically the principle should be to diversify the system, because we're going to end up in traffic gridlock. And we say, but how we reach here?
Yeah.
How we reach here? Now, if Minister Duke was the Minister of Transportation and he had $1 billion, he could solve that for you. Don't put the man in jail now.
And speaking about alleviation of traffic, I don't know if you would have known this, but recently the Chaguanas to Port of Spain and Chaguanas to San Fernando taxi stand, it was moved from the top of High Street down to King's Wharf in an attempt to alleviate traffic. What is very odd, however, is there's another taxi stand that was brought in the same position that the taxi stand was moved from. It's an attempt to alleviate traffic, but then again, how much sense does it really make if you're telling me that you're moving one taxi stand to put another taxi stand there? San Fernando, like you rightly said, is always known to have traffic.
Yeah.
How do we now alleviate traffic in key areas or in cities like that?
Well, I was in a big traffic about 4 or 5 days ago. I went to serve some documents in Port of Spain. I parked my car in front of the OWTU, and it took me 3 hours to get from the OWTU to Claxton Bay.
Wow.
That's because I'm an impatient person. I went through Vistabella, I spent an hour. I went up Coquet,
You thought you were avoiding traffic.
I went through the bypass, I spent an hour. So I spent 3 hours. And people go through that on a daily basis.
Yes.
I wonder how they survive. You understand? So I think that problem can be resolved through building what are called connector roads and roundabouts. You have to look at a system of connector roads and roundabouts around all of these major thoroughfares. It's very important. Yeah? And then once you establish, for example, good bus service, park and rides and so on, bicycle tracks even for the rural area, I think this will help a lot to alleviate some of these problems. But you need some imagination, You don't just go with big billion-dollar contracts in the rural areas and say you're dealing with traffic. You want to build a highway to Toko.
And what's interesting is coming out of some statements made by the Prime Minister a few weeks ago at a TTPS event, I believe it is, when he said, all public servants do at the end of the day is they produce absolutely nothing, and they only make noise basically at the end of the month when they don't get their pay. And you have to consider now that you just asked a question which made me remember that you don't know how people survive through it. But here it is that people depend on doing this every day. You have people from South coming to town every day to do this. And then you have the Prime Minister on one hand saying, well, y'all don't do anything,
Well, the Prime Minister is a chief public servant, isn't he?
That was my point.
What is he doing? What is he doing? If it is that people are lazy in the offices, what are you doing to solve that? You understand? What are you doing in terms of development?
Yeah.
What development project have you undertaken, Mr. Prime Minister, in education? The education system needs serious reform. The economic system needs serious reform. How does he reform that? He takes a plane and he goes to the Netherlands to talk to the oil giants. Is that helping? The transportation system needs serious reform. The agricultural system needs serious reform. The criminals are taking over this country. We have a competing drugs-based economy. What is he doing about that? I find that he's behaving very lazy indeed as chief architect and chief public servant.
Do you think that, you know, this statement is just, his statements actually was just, you know, something that solidifies his take on the public itself?
Well, I think that there is a problem indeed, and I think that he is touching on a serious problem, and that is that the workers themselves, whether it's the private sector or the public sector, they need to be educated on how to produce an efficient and hard-working and sacrificial day's work. That's a general statement. And the people who have to do that are the bosses. The unions have to do it, the corporate leaders have to do it, the prime minister have to do it. Because these are the corporate heads. It's a general problem of low productivity that we are facing. But you can't pick and choose. You have to look at yourself. Look at your party. I thought that Dr. Rowley, I voted for Dr. Rowley, would have reformed the PNM to vindicate themselves from the historical errors like shutting down the train and done something productive. But they have not done anything productive. What they have done, they have kept the system going, the status quo going, without dealing with anything in generating anything productive to get more employment for the people, to create more opportunities. For example, he could go on a huge manufacture of solar cell technology. Take $1 billion and put solar cells all over those roofs. Look at all of those roofs. Look at sun. Gosh, look at megatons and megatons of sun falling on the roofs of Port of Spain. What are we going to do about that? You put solar cell panels. Understand? Is he doing that?
No.
Low productivity. I give him a 2 out of 10.
And this month makes it 4 years since the 2015 elections, and you're saying 2 out of 10 in terms of productivity.
2 out of 10 in terms of productivity and everything, in terms of moral and ethics, and I think he has hit bottom low. He has hit the level that Minister Kamala Prasad and her 4 horsemen of the apocalypse hit. So I don't think that Trinidad and Tobago has a choice in the next election. I mean, it's very unfortunate, but we really don't have a real and a viable choice for the next election. That's why Watson Duke should come and get into politics and start changing up the status quo, start shaking things up. And he's right, shake things up, because we sit down in traffic and taking it and putting on music and eating. I don't know what we're eating in the morning, drinking smoothies, coming to Port of Spain every morning with our little children there, hours on hours to every day. What kind of thing is that? That's not the way to live.
And then, you know, I always make the point, if you're coming from south, that is additional traffic, because to head to south on a regular evening, I'm not even talking about an evening with school traffic, on a regular evening, you have to take approximately 2 hours to get to south. And with school traffic, that is more traffic heading south. So, you know, I think that public servants, they do their best, granted, the conditions they work under, the salaries they work for. So something like that, obviously, it would have messed with them mentally, of course.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult, psychologically speaking, to manage a day's work after going through that traffic. Because when you reach home at 6 o'clock in the evening, you have no time just to take a bath, jump in bed, and in the morning you have to come back again. So you're like that for a whole week. You understand? No one will like cricket so much. It's a welcome break. You know, from all this harassment of traffic. Traffic, you're talking about the pollution. You're talking about the wear and tear. You're talking about the use of foreign exchange. You're talking about the use of gas resources. You're talking about health impacts on people. It's a huge burden. It's a huge cost. I don't see Dr. Rowley addressing that.
Perhaps it's because they aren't in traffic like the regular citizens. So, you know.
Yeah, he had a feel with the people, feel the things that people are feeling. He's not a feeling person. He's not a feeling person. Mr. Winston Duke, you know why he spoke like that? Watson Duke, sorry. Because he's a feeling person. He feels for the workers. I never see a man feel for workers, so you should congratulate the man for making that speech. Yeah? Because he's saying that I feel for the workers. I feel for them.
You know, when you're passionate about something, you naturally hear it and you see it, and I think that was exemplified there.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. What are you talking about bombs? You talk about metaphorical bombs, Mr. Watson. You're not going to use no bombs. And anybody should not really believe you're going to use a bomb. Where are you going to get a bomb? I saw when he was responding to Satmaraj, he went on Good Friday and he went to Tobago. I see with the people eating the fish. That's his way of answering Satmaraj. He didn't answer Satmaraj with any bomb.
No.
He said, look how much things Tobago could produce. Fish and sports and running. I see he's swimming with the little children. That's Duke. Who doesn't know Mr. Duke playing bright with stupidness, to quote the Prime Minister?
And of course, if you're now joining us here on PSA TV, this is the Wake Up Call. On set, I've got with me Dr. Wayne Kublalsingh, writer, activist, former lecturer. How many titles do we have here?
Enough.
No more editions anytime soon?
Well, I have about 21 books now at Amazon, and I'll be launching all 21 of them shortly.
Yes.
But I have 40 in all. I've just reached 21.
Oh, wow.
I need editors to help me to edit and put it together. So it's a huge resource. So after I leave the planet, people will see what a great writer I am. They don't know that part of me yet.
I can testify to your lecturing, of course. Something that I know we spoke about earlier that you were very much interested in commenting on is the weather forecast of late. We have developing situations with Hurricane Dorian, and then of course prior to that we would have seen the fires in the Amazon. As an environmental activist, you know, your thoughts on those two developing matters?
All right, I've been given a nickname called environmentalist. But I'm not an environmentalist. I wasn't trained in environmental science and so on.
But I think because you've been actively involved.
You're close to it. Yeah, you're right. I'm an economic activist.
An economic activist.
But the environment is such a large part
of
your thinking of the environment. Because your ecological assets are your economic assets. The very things that people use to sustain themselves, your mangroves and so on, those are economic assets. So before you touch it, you have to understand that they're a very important infrastructural, social, economic asset. Don't just use them willy-nilly. That's the point we have been making. They have to be accounted for. Don't hide those accounting figures. Yeah? All right, so we have to deal with the facts because a lot of things get misconstrued in this whole argument.
Yes.
The fact is that the ice caps are melting. There is clear testimony, fact, photographic evidence, all kind of evidence in the Himalayas, Mount Kilimanjaro, in the Andes, the ice caps are in Europe, the ice caps are melting. Where does the water go? The water goes into the atmosphere, the water goes into the sea. Therefore you have the first impact, sea level rise. All right? The second impact, why is it melting? It's melting because the planet is warming up a bit. It's warming up a bit. And then when the waters go on the sea, and the wind passes over the warm seas, it picks up heat. And it gathers a lot of energy, a lot of momentum. It gathers Einsteinian megatons of energy. And that is what you call a bomb. Bombs are hitting America today. It's a neutron bomb. It's a hurricane. So you're going to have more and more hurricanes because you have more and more heat surface in the water and the wind passes. So you're going to have more and more frequency of hurricanes. Because of the amount of water you have in the atmosphere, you're going to have more and more soggy land, which is going to be more and more landslides, right? And you're going to have more forest fires because when the water melts, okay, and it goes down into the forests or the sea or the rivers, there will be a lot of places which are left parched, especially the Amazon, in Siberia, in Australia, in California. There are a lot of areas which are left parched because you don't have the water again to keep these areas wet and soggy. And so you're going to have a lot of forest fires. So you have all these coming, forest fires, sea level rise, global ice melting, hurricanes, and what you call it, landslides. So all of these things we have to take into account. Now, how are we going to be affected? We are going to be affected in such a way that we wouldn't be able to cope. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to cope. Government, central government will not be able to cope with it, and therefore you need to develop a strong system of local government reform. That's why we want 41 Watson Dukes, each one to head a constituency to deal with this problem, because government cannot deal with this problem. We need 41 Watson Dukes, and shortly I'll be looking for 41 Watson Dukes, each to head each of these constituencies with an executive, and which is the polling division captains, to manage the affairs of that constituency. Local government reform in a serious way, not an unserious way, a serious way.
How does local reform tie into it now?
Well, the government has its own proposal. I myself have not read in detail, but I think this is one thing which ought to be done. You need to have 41 separate offices to run each of the constituency. That's very important. So Dr. Rowley doesn't have to be, or any Prime Minister doesn't have to be doing these things, and he has delegated authority. You have to have a clear stream of authority which you delegate, yeah? Because all the time, we the media, and we the public, rush into Dr. Rowley with Mike, but we have left our communities endangered. We have not looked after our communities, and they are falling apart with violence, with crime, with couture, with all kind of wakatif and all kind of thing happening. And they have lost a kind of central authority on the ground. You know, we do not have that authority on the ground. That's why things are happening, and they happen, and people take law into their own hands.
Yeah.
Because we have lost that political authority on the ground, and we have to re-establish that. So forget about Dr. Rowley and what he's saying or not saying. We have to deal with government on the ground, near the people. Everybody belongs to a community.
And I know recently I would have seen that September was predicted to be one of the hottest months rather, in this year. And I think that just ties into what you were talking about just now, the
extreme weather.
I don't think a lot of the public really understand the effects of climate change. You know, we just kind of touch on it, leave it there, but it impacts all of us.
Yeah, well, you see, the media explains bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But you have to see the whole picture. The whole picture is that the earth is warming up, there's going to be more precipitation, are we going to feel the impact, especially in farming, for example?
Yeah.
That's why we need to get very quickly into solar energy. We need to get very quickly into harnessing this water through retention ponds. Once they say they have no water in the pipe, and they have water all over the place. It means we haven't captured the water, we haven't captured the sun. We're not doing those things, you see. So we need to think radically. Forget about arresting, I hate to be going back, you're arresting Watson. You have so much work to do. Bring in the Canadians, bring in the Indians, bring in the Chinese, bring in the Costa Ricans. Let them help you. You're studying about Watson Duke, let Watson Duke do business now. You have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And it's work that was promised in their manifesto as well.
Well, he promised the approach of science and transparency, but I'm not seeing it happening.
And
it's
even
the first line in the manifesto. Science, logic, and transparency. Breaking his manifesto promise right there.
And even if we look at in the telecommunications aspect, we've seen where Wi-Fi was promised throughout the nation. But to my knowledge, I can't step outside and get free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and the prices are going up. The public is paying too much for communication. The public, people love to communicate.
Of course.
I just see two policemen passing this morning. I see two of them. One has two phones in his hand, and he ain't watching anything, you know, he just communicating. People love to communicate. They can't live without connectivity. And therefore connectivity is a very essential part of their living, especially in the 21st century. You don't have to go all over the place. If you have connectivity, you can stay home and do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it should be affordable. It should be regarded as a basic right, as a basic asset, as a national asset, and it should be affordable. Now, if you give it to two companies, Pepsi and Coke, Guardian and Express, they will carry out the price. They will start fighting each other, and when they can't win each other, eventually they will carry out the price correspondingly, and you will have to pay. That's so? So you have to ensure the government
the nation
that the people
always
have
feels
affordable communications, water, health, education, basic services. That's what Dr. Rowley should be worried about.
Dr. Kublalsingh, I'm going to ask you your closing comments before we wrap things up.
Well, I support Minister Watson Duke. I support my brother. When I met him last time, how was he doing?
He's good, he's good.
Is he in Trinidad or Tobago?
I'm not sure at the moment.
All right. When he said when he opens political party, he will invite me to Tobago. I hope he keeps his promise. I don't be like the Prime
He's a
Minister.
man of his word.
Well, if he invites me to Tobago, I'm going with my good friend, Mr. Chaitu. We're going on the boat, and we're going to be sitting on the front seat. And if you call me to speak, I will stand up and speak for 4 minutes. And I will tell the people of Tobago what a great man Watson Duke is. Because you don't really recognize how great your people are. Because a lot of people don't believe in themselves.
Very
and
true.
because they don't believe in themselves, they don't believe in their heroes. And it's only when the heroes die, like Butler, that you, oh, what a good man he was. So recognize your heroes when they're alive. Recognize your heroes. It's very clear, it's patently obvious to me that Watson Duke has greatness marked upon him, and he should be allowed to prosper. We should be celebrating Watson Duke. We should not be attacking the man. So I'll be in Tobago, and I'll be taking a front seat if he invites me, and I'll be supporting him fully.
4-minute speech.
A 4-minute speech? Yeah, I don't want more than that.
Okay. Mr. Duke, I hope you're watching this morning. 4-minute speech. We have Dr. Kublalsingh here, who will make a 4-minute speech. 4 minutes. That's quite short, though.
No, that's good. That's good enough.
Okay, go like
I don't
5?
want to bore the audience.
Okay.
Because I'm not a Tobagonian, no, I'm a Trinidadian, so they might say, who is this fella coming here and spoiling the politics? Yeah, and he's also very strong in Tobago.
Yeah.
You know, but I will support him because I think he's a good man. I think he loves Trinidad and Tobago, he loves the people in Tobago, and I think he deserves a very, very, very good chance to lead people in Tobago and Trinidad.
Dr. Kublalsingh, I want to thank you so much for coming on this morning. You know, always sharing your thoughts with us, your opinions. And
sorry, what is this for? Meg, sorry, what is this for? What's this for?
It's to have order on set.
Oh, I see.
I can't remember the proper name of it.
It's a gavel.
Gavel, yes. So that's to have order on set.
Okay, that's what I want to order. Order in Trinidad and Tobago. Order.
Yeah. We all want that.
Yeah, order. People love order.
Yeah.
You think Trinidad and Tobago is breaking the law? But if you give them the rules and the laws, they will stick to the laws. They want order.
Some.
Yeah, they will sacrifice and make the effort. But they want a leadership which provides that order, which shows themselves that they are orderly people.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. This is PSA TV. You know, this morning, what we've learned so far is that Dr. Kublalsingh has written to the president from some actions done in the past there with the Harry Route movement. So that is something that we'll also be following up on, and he's also indicated that he will always be supporting his blood brother.
As long as he does the right ethical thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So this is PSA TV. We'll be right back.